do.
Frank Ocean is back. After an incredibly long 4-year wait after his critically acclaimed Channel Orange was dropped way back in 2012, fans have been thirsting for more from this soulful and unique musical genius, but have been teased and put off for years, originally believing his follow-up, which was originally titled Boys Don't Cry, would drop in July of 2014, which came and passed with no word, and again being told through a mysterious library card the next July that this would be the end of their wait, until it wasn't. Many fans were not handling him well, and some even began to lose hope we would ever see another project from Frank. That is until this August when we started to get cryptic streams and hints that something may be coming, and finally, Frank dropped something nobody even knew was on its way when he released his visual album, Endless. Endless was a compilation of 18 tracks that were played over a mostly uncut visual of multiple Franks as they work in an empty warehouse, from cutting wood to painting boxes and arranging them for something greater. As are most of Frank's projects, it was half bewildering and half strikingly captivating, with more of a focus on the beats and use of more electronic sound akin to some of Kanye West's projects. Frank let his voice take a back seat on a number of tracks, while still giving himself room to croon with the best of them. It turns out that all of Frank's work was in an effort to build an ever-lightening staircase to nowhere, to heaven, without end. All are possible and probably intended, knowing Frank, but Endless served simply as the appetizer for what was to come, since this wasn't even the album we'd all been salivating over for nearly half a decade. It turns out that this strange new visual album was simply a savvy sidestep by Frank, not only to appease his fans, but to finish out his contract with Def Jam. So Frank left them with an Apple-exclusive 40-minute long music video that will probably be incredibly difficult to really make that much money off of, either by sales or radio play. And then, to make matters worse for them, he dropped his actual album 24 hours later as an independent artist. There is rather a good chance that a lawsuit might occur between the two parties at this point, especially since Def Jam is reported to have spent as much as $2 million on Frank's latest album, and yet got squeezed out of reaping those benefits. But for Frank, things couldn't have worked out much better. By pulling this off, his profits from his album jumped from 14% under the studio to 70% as an independent artist. And for the fans, the wait is immediately worth it, regardless of whether or not one album could have lived up to the hype after the quality of a musical landmark like Channel Orange. The release of 2 albums simultaneously greatly lessens the stakes and provides double the music we thought we were getting from Frank, at least partially making up for such a long hiatus and explaining away the ridiculous gap between projects for our favorite crooner in the game. So after Frank's dance with the label, the next day he dropped what we've all been waiting for, Blonde, or Blonde, depending on the version. Just the first of many mind-bending questions Frank wills you to ask in his latest project, since the version with the E is the feminine version of the word, while no E represents the masculine, much akin to Frank's own sexuality and dealings with both sides of his own duality. Frank speaks about what inspired him to make the image of the cover art. It also seems to reference the former name Boys Don't Cry, as Frank covers his dripping face so we can't see him crying. Also a reference to his line on the track There Will Be Tears from his mixtape Nostalgia Ultra. Now, Nike's opens up Frank's latest album with a multitude of symbolism within the video alone, including a nod to the Heaven's Gate suicide cult, which draws another parallel not only between the futility of a suicide cult ideology and that of our own consumerism, whether we chase Nikes or the real ones, or Checks, as Chance the Rapper's tweeted about twice, making it likely that Chance was involved in the making of this track, which is just another plus. Another parallel arises when looking at the leader of this cult, who is said to have struggled with sexual attraction to other men. Just another strange connection to Frank himself. However, it's clear in this song that Frank finds following his own conscience to be more reliable than those indoctrinated into this so-called bad religion. The first half of the track is heavily auto-tuned as Frank laments about past friends who have passed and speaks on entendres about girls running drugs and using scales just like a real mermaid would.
And my little cousin, he got a little tray. His girl keep the scales, a little mermaid. We out by the pool, some little mermaids. Me and them gel, like twigs with the bangs. Now that's a real mermaid.
Once again referencing past work from Channel Orange, similar to the story he tells in Lost. From here on out, Frank's true voice comes back into focus, possibly meaning that he is no longer under the influence and is sobered up as he speaks on the perils of fame and uses contradictions to explain his relationship with another person. Musically, it's clear by the second half of the track that Frank hasn't lost a step. When it comes to that iconic voice and his unique way of flowing over the ambiguous lines he gives us to mull over. Whether he decides to slow it down or pick up the pace, his voice takes us on a journey to set the tone for the rest of an album and announce that Frank Ocean is back. Next up is a more upbeat feeling song, although, as often the case with Frank's song, the meaning behind his words is much deeper and at times gloomier than many may think. In Ivy, Frank describes one of his past relationships that has since fallen apart. Although he was left wanting more from that other person, they kept their walls up and misrepresented how much Frank really meant to them, making Frank feel as though they were more interested in a physical connection than a deeper relationship.
We'll never be those kids again. It's not the same. Everything's cool. Don't you remember? I broke your heart last week. You'll probably feel better by the weekend. Still remember, had you going crazy, screaming my name. The feeling deep down is good.
Frank laments over the loss of his connection and the mistakes they both made before he can be heard destroying equipment out of sorrow and anger as the song comes to an end. Once again, Frank's voice is the main propellant in our journey through the song over a light and dreamy strumming beat that relates back to the chorus's words and brings this melancholy song of lost love full circle. Once again, Frank uses the power of lost love as well as time to well up an incredible amount of emotion in another classic. This trend continues in the next song, Pink Plus White, as Frank tells the story once again of how one of his past lovers helped to influence his worldview greatly and likens the way he learned to take life with a smile each day and understand when it will end and must be valued. He then likens this worldview to how he and the people around him dealt with Hurricane Katrina when Frank's hometown was struck by tragedy.
In the wake of a hurricane, dark skin of a summer shade, nosedive in the floodlines, tall tower, milk crate. It's the same way you showed me. Cannonball off the porch side, older kids trying off the roof. Just the same way you showed me. You showed.
Frank also credits his mother for helping him stay on dry land and realize how to stay on his feet and fight through tough times such as these. The song also features Beyonce, a past collaborator with Frank on her own album, although she's only used as backup vocals, solidifying Frank as the only man who would dare sit Queen Bee in a corner. Pink Plus White's title also continues one of Frank's favorite motifs, color. In songs such as Eyes Like Sky, Pink Matter, or Sierra Leone, where he sings about the pink skies, or even the naming of his classic album, Channel Orange, color influences Frank and helps him to understand and showcase his own emotions. As are most of the songs on Blonde, this one features light production centered on some piano and drums, and lets Frank take the reins of the song with his own angelic voice as he flows smoothly through the track. After this track, we get into the first skit on the album, featuring a voicemail from Rosie Watson, a mother of one of Frank's childhood friends, and the same woman from the Channel Orange skit, Not Just Money. And this one is even more scathing. She goes into a spiel about how college kids get hooked on drugs and alcohol and become sluggish and unconcerned as they try to become somebody else. She wraps up by warning that Frank and others should be themselves and stay true to that.
When people become weed heads, they become sluggish, lazy, stupid, and unconcerned. Sluggish, lazy, stupid, and unconcerned. That's all marijuana does to you. Okay? This is Mom.
This is a jarring skit to be placed on this album and is immediately juxtaposed in the next track, Solo, as Frank references taking tabs of acid by the second line of the song and smoking weed by the end of the first verse, as if to say to this woman, see, I can do this and be just as successful, if not more so, than my peers. But after this voicemail, Frank is conflicted about his means of dealing with his low moments. For Frank, he often finds heaven in smoking weed, saying, inhale, there's heaven. Once again creating a dichotomy, since weed is often seen as hell, but to Frank, it's heaven, and he once again finds himself on the opposite side of tradition, seemingly showing another example of his own sexuality.
I got that act right in a windy city that night. No trees to blow through, but blow me, and I owe you 2 grams when the sunrise. Smoking good, rolling solo. It's hell on earth and the city's on fire. In hell, there's heaven. There's a bull and a matador dueling in the sky. In hell, there's heaven. Ah.
It's a striking placement for this song after the skit we heard, and it gives a layered account for both sides, while still not truly taking a side, even though he himself has found solace in his own heaven. This trend of smoking and its lifting feeling continues over to the next track, Skyline 2, which follows Frank as he reminisces about how short the summer has become as he's aged, one of the common themes Frank has dealt with in many of his albums, such as Strawberry Swing on his mixtape, and consoles himself with a lover who, like him, smells of Californication. That is until the sunrise comes to find them. And it's not long before the night comes for them and finds Frank with a piece in his hand that brings him peace, as the sun sets on the Congo skyline until it finds him once again.
Pretty fucking sunrise in sight. And comes the morning hunting us with the beams. So sustained as far as it used to be. It begins to blur, we get older. Blur. Summer's not as long as it used to be.
This track's biggest disappointment has to be mentioned, as Frank brought in Kendrick Lamar for a feature on his song, and then once again gave him the same treatment as he gave Beyonce, relegating him to some background vocals and stiffing him on a verse that could have been an incredible way to put an exclamation mark on this track. It seems that Frank may be learning a bit too much from Kanye, as West has done the same before, as recently as with Andre 3000 with 30 Hours on Life of Pablo, where 3 Stacks is featured for a grand total of 2 words. Luckily, Frank trusts 3000 with the verse, as we find out later in the album, but it's still incredibly disappointing and really the main downside so far to Frank's new album. Poor Kendrick. Self-Control is the next track on the album and also delves into the heartbreak that can arise from relationships. In this case, Frank and his lover got together but ended up moving apart simply due to bad timing in their own lives that led Frank to be far more mature and have a different worldview, as he'd already experienced so much more, whether that be drugs or relationships.
Could I make it shy last night? Could I make it shy on the last night? Could we make it in? Do we have time?
I'll be the boyfriend in your wet dreams tonight.
And now he sees this person as rarely as someone might spot a UFO, because they both know they can't quite control themselves when they're around each other, and both partly wish and think about the other person for many years of their lives. It's possible that this song is also about Frank's past lover, Willie Cartier, who dated Frank shortly in 2012 before the two parted ways, or it could be in reference to Frank's first love, which he detailed in an incredibly personal Tumblr post. Throughout the outro, Frank again laments that things didn't work out and how both of them wanted to, but he just understands that life is short and his ex has to move forward with somebody else, but that he hopes he'll remember him at moments in the future, and knows that sounds, like music, can often bring tears to the eye when they're reminded of those relationships. After this, we get a quick little snippet and part of a conversation in Good Guy. The first half details a good guy who set Frank up on a blind date, but it's not long before Frank realizes this guy's only a one-date fling and not the start of something more, all over a simple 2 piano beats.
Is when I realized you talk so much more than I do. It's highlights when I was convinced. Begging much more than some nice shit. I know you don't need me right now, and to you it's just a late night out.
Then we get a conversation between two men about girls, possibly, and it seems as though one or possibly both of them are talking more for show than they are actually in real life. I mean, it seems that they might not actually be interested in women and may be quietly gay instead. Also, one of the men is talkative while the other is more reserved, similar to Frank and the man he went on a date with in this song. In Nights, Frank speaks on who it is we should surround ourselves with and that we should make sure we have people around us who are honest with us. As Frank swings his voice through the first half of this upbeat jam, he describes a lover he hasn't heard from in so long as if to think that they were dead. But as is the case with many of Frank's past relationships, Frank has realized that part of his life is over and he isn't eager to revisit that past relationship.
I hope the sack is full up. I'm fucking, no, I'm fucked up. Spend it when I get that. I ain't tryna keep you. Can't keep up a conversation, can't nobody read you. Why your eyes well up? Did you call me from a seance?
Now Frank is more concerned with working his night shift and maybe relaxing with some grass and a girl when he's finished. He doesn't waste time on idle conversation or any concern for those who would wish him ill will because he's too busy with the same shit every night, every day. As the first half of the track trails off, repeating these last two phrases. Next, the track shifts to a new beat and feel. This happens at exactly the 30-minute mark of this 60-minute album and starts the B-side of the LP. It also has been speculated that this shifts from a Frank in the first half who is more eager for love and optimistic to a Frank who is reliving his mistakes and is distraught about his own feelings, while once again referencing his own duality as he has many times in the album so far.
So right when the B-side kicks in is as fitting a place as any for us to stop here for the day. I'll be coming back again soon with my B-side review of Blonde, Frank Ocean's new album, but if I'd kept going, this video would just be way too long, so just know that it is coming, but part 1 is right here for your viewing pleasure. I hope you liked it. Like if you liked the video. Did you think this side A is better than Channel Orange side A? It's pretty great. Which side do you think was better, A or B? We'll find out when I come back soon. Please subscribe if you want to see more movie, music, and TV stuff from me. I really did love the first half of this album. There's some fantastic tracks on here, from Solo to Nights to some other great stuff like Ivy and Pink Plus White and Nike's. Great songs, just a really great start to this album. We'll have to finish it out next video and really have the full picture before we make an evaluation, but this side A was amazing, and just be ready for side B. Anyways, thanks so much for watching, and I'll be back again soon with the second part of this review.